Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. This is going to be another First Impressions video. In today's First Impressions video, we are taking a look at the Midwest Industries MP5 furniture. And before we get this video started, as always, I wanted to give a huge shout out to this video's sponsor, which is of course Seal One. Seal One makes a wide variety of firearms cleaning and maintenance supplies. That stuff smells great. It has like a weird nostalgic bubblegum smell to it. It makes me want to eat it. It's pretty good stuff and I really do enjoy it. Long before this sponsorship ever started, I have been using Seal One as my go-to cleaning stuff when it comes to guns, probably years before this sponsorship actually. And I've been using primarily their paste, that's my go-to, but they make a lot of stuff. It's about 20 degrees here right now in Pennsylvania, and they make a Sub-Zero Seal One that's actually not gonna gum your gun up or anything like that. They also do a standard liquid, an aerosol, bow care products, and pretty much everything in between. They're giving you guys right now a 25% off discount code. That's good permanently. It doesn't have to be Black Friday. It is just that good of a deal. All you got to do is go to their website in the discount code section, type in FF-25, that's FF-25, and that's going to save you guys 25% off of your order. The good old SP5 is back on the table again. I finally got to my first replacement part on the SP5. It's still running reliably, but what goes out very frequently on the MP5 series of firearms is my extractor spring. And how I know that's going out is because when I rack the bolt back, it's just kind of waving at me a little bit. It's just kind of falling all over the place in there. And that is just simply what happens with these guns when you get probably to around 2,000-ish rounds. You're going to have to start thinking about swapping that spring out. So usually it's always good to have them on hand. But I got in probably my favorite furniture from Midwest Industries so far. So if you have ever dived down the MP5 handguard situation, you'll know that there are a lot of variations out there. There's a lot of affordable variations out there. However, what is not available or affordable in any way, shape, or form is the Knights Armament quad rail that was once kind of a staple for military or law enforcement MP5s. I have been looking for a Knights quad rail for a very long time, and the prices on those, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago, were roughly 300 bucks, maybe like 150 bucks. Now, you can't even get a price for it because they are just not really out there for sale. And that is something that I just kind of came to grips with. I always wanted to rock a quad rail on my MP5, and now Midwest Industries decided to deliver on that. As usual, Midwest Industries knocked it out of the park with this one. Now, of course, full disclosure, what is my relationship with Midwest? They did send me this quad rail and this top rail that we will talk about in this video as well for free to check out in this video. These are two items that I can just keep and continue to review as everything goes along. Now, they have not ever asked me to say anything positive. I have said 1 or 2 negative comments about their products in the past, and I'm always going to be honest and upfront in these videos. That's why I love Midwest so much. They just want to hear what this stuff is actually performing like at the range. The quad rail, I absolutely love. As you can see here, I have no movement. I mean, maybe a very small shift that I can feel. Is it going to be rigid enough to mount like a laser aiming module? Probably. I mean, the issue with mounting any type of aiming module on an MP5 handguard, just the sheer design of the way that they mount to the gun is not necessarily the most secure thing. It is just going to be a friction fit shelf in the rear of the MP5 barrel section that accepts the handguard. So it doesn't really matter the design of the handguard or how good or bad it is, you're always going to have a little bit of play here. So I don't know that I would ever mount an aiming module on an MP5 rail on the lower section, but as far as any lights or vertical grips, this is absolutely incredible. I'm rocking a GG&G vertical grip on this, and the light situation is still something I'm figuring out. Pressure pads are just kind of rough and in the way on an MP5 variation. It's just kind of really difficult to get them where you can easily access the light, but they're also not interfering with your charging handle here on the other side. Now, I have messed with putting the pressure pads on the vertical grips, and that's really the best way that I have found, and I'm probably going to do that with this rifle as well. Now, I am still, again, playing around with that, so that's why the light is just kind of in this configuration. You have 3 sections of Picatinny rail. The lower section goes all the way out underneath the barrel, and I think it looks excellent like that. But you also do have M-LOK here on the top section. So if you wanted to use M-LOK sections to mount a light real snug against the cocking tube up here, then that would absolutely be possible. I just decided to still utilize the pick rail, and the pick rail is very low profile on this. It's not going to be beefing out the sides, which I really love. You're going to get the rigidity that Picatinny has, but it's not going to be just a chunk up in the front of your already relatively slim and lightweight PCC. Now, when we go to the upper claw mount and rail, this, jury's still out on my feelings about this as far as if it is, we'll say, necessary with an MP5. I have looked at a lot of the claw mounts from Midwest. I think they are phenomenal. They're great claw mounts. They are not the lowest mounted thing in the world, but they are rugged and it holds up well. I've never had an issue losing 0 on a Midwest claw mount on an MP5. But Midwest kind of really cranked on the innovation hat here and designed a long section of M-LOK on the top that actually gets a small threaded screw, which you might be able to see there, that goes into the top of the barrel band that's on top of your cocking tube. And that simply locks on over the front sight and gives you, again, an ability to mount something to this. The reason why I'm still up in the air, could you offset mount a light to this? Yes, absolutely. I think in conjunction with a rail underneath, I don't know how needed this is up here, because on an MP5, I'm going to typically mount all of my accessories on the rail. And as you guys are probably assuming, this is very much a personal preference. Other people might only want to run their light up at the top, not run anything on the rail, but have the options. Others might want to just run this and then run a standard wide plastic handguard with no mounting points. It's really just an option, but again, in my case, I think having both of them there is not necessarily needed. So for me, I could do without the added M-LOK slot up here, although I do think it slightly changes the look of the SP5, and it's not like obtrusively obnoxious. Like it kind of flows well. The pick rail still gives it that vintage feel and practical ability. And then you have this, which is definitely a little bit more modern, but again, it's not like in your face rough. You still have a lot of aspects visually of your standard MP5 style setup. It has no interference with the charging handle. I have not had any issues getting to the charging handle and deploying it as I normally would. And you just want to make sure that depending on your MP5 variation, you're going to have the proper length up here to not interfere with this rail system. Midwest did recently drop an entire essentially tucked suppressor version of their M-LOK rail for the SP5, and I will be taking a look at that very soon. I am curious to see what my thoughts are there when we are looking at that setup it is really going away from the standard like MP5 situation. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna like it, but I'm very curious to see. And they also did drop a new stock adapter and triangle stock that is looking really cool on the MP5. There's kind of two different schools with the MP5 situation. You got a lot of folks that completely modernize it, and then a lot of folks that stay 100% in the 70s and 80s and have nothing but a Navy configuration. I tend to be, as I am with most of my guns, right in the smack dab middle of that. I kind of like having some practical features, but I love the retro vintage feel. So I'm kind of, again, in the middle of the road. So I would say this setup minus the M-LOK is on the top is probably my prime SP5 or MP5 setup for just a straight up work MP5. This thing can do anything you need it to do. I love the fixed stock. That's the most comfortable setup for me. And I just think that is the straight up God tier level for the SP5. Just having a quad rail, fixed stock, claw mount up top, good to go. Again, the only thing that I am not necessarily the biggest fan of is this M-LOK up here. It's just not something that I typically would use, but others out there might really enjoy that. And it is going to be a much more rigid mount up, so depending on the height of your optic, it might look a little bit of funky going on up here, but you could probably get away with mounting a laser aiming module up here and not have any issues. So provided it's not going to interfere with your charging handle here on the left side, you might be able to make it work and have a little bit more of a rigid mounting platform to that. Obviously, you are going to lose the ability to use your iron sights, which at the moment, if this optic comes off, I can still use my irons. So that's something to consider as well. That is going to wrap up this first impressions video on my Midwest SP5 furniture. If you guys have any other questions about this furniture or anything else on the channel, please feel free to put them down below in the comment section, and I absolutely will get back to you. While you're down there, head up to the description, check out the links to support the channel, and as always, stay tuned for more great videos coming soon.